You guys okay, recording in the progress. So you can
No,
take
we're Bruins. We just found out that we're Bruins, and so it just took off. So that makes sense. Yeah.
Yes, we are. I graduated class of 93 poli sci, and one of the things I
Mm,
look back on is my favorite
nice.
class was a film class, and
Mm,
I'm just over at Melnitz and just wondering for you who you were actually steeped in the program, how did it help you and shape you
right.
as a filmmaker you are today?
At the beginning, I didn't appreciate it as much as I should have. I think it's that kind of age that you're in that you think that you've gotten to film school because the UCLA Film School was quite unique and it was quite difficult to get into, and not because it's a good school, but it's not because it's like so great or so expensive or anything like that. It's because the classroom is so small, and so I thought, getting in there would just, just make me immediately like this auteur. But it's different because the UCLA program is more of the auteur experience. Like it's your film and it's your vision and all that versus what you need to know how to navigate the business and which USC, I believe, is somewhat better for. I've come to terms with that because when I came out uh, from school in around early 2000, I was kind of lost. I didn't know how to navigate the business, and how to get an agent and how to be out there and how to put out my story and vision. But the things that I've learned were very strong basis things like analog things like how to record sound and how to shoot and how to navigate the visual language, so that helped. But the thing that I was missing a lot was the actual storytelling for an audience, right? I had to do everything myself basically, and that's what UCLA does for you, is that you literally have to do every position, and you get to be able to immerse in that, and so that was very helpful, and that I'm very grateful for.
Speaking of being grateful and helpful, how important was it to have someone like actors like Silverstone and Tupper just anchor your narrative because the movie doesn't work unless you have an emotional connection to this couple. Were they both no-brainers for you as far as the casting and the collaboration effort on your part?
Alicia was, by the way, she likes to be called Alicia, and I found that out. And I was kind of, are you sure? She's like, no, it's Alicia. So I have to get it right from now on. It's Alicia. Uh, she was a gift to be working on this one because she has her own story to tell, and her own personal touch to the character. And I was very lucky for that because she was not the obvious person that I thought that could pull this off, obviously. But when she showed a lot of interest, and when I talked with her, there was this kind of emotional connection that she really wanted to explore in this character, and so I immediately had a lot of confidence in that, because we really didn't talk anything about the whole action of the movie or the scares or any of that kind of genre stuff. But I found myself constantly talking to her about character and her emotions and how she's going to pull off like real in-depth acting stuff, and that's a joy to do. And James just came in and really supported all that because he's more of a minimalist actor, and as far as the way that he approached this, and that helped a lot, and that kind of offset the balance.
In layman's terms, I don't know what the budget was for this movie, but one of the cool things I loved about this, when they're in the middle of the ocean, you really feel like they're in the middle of the ocean. Is there a trick
Mhm.
to do that with not having $100 million budget for you? Just
Of course.
what was the thing of opening
Right.
up the world with a limited budget as opposed to $100 million budget?
Yeah. Yeah, it's just, I mean, these days the tools to do that is a lot easier. It's just only recently, I think the Reef did a similar movie where they're lost in the middle of the ocean, and obviously you would shoot in one direction to feel the openness of the ocean, and when you're actually turning the camera around, you're actually not physically turning the camera around. You're just kind of letting them stay there, but then they're acting as if the camera's turned around. So it's called flipping the set. So that's one of the things that we did to show to kind of in editing to show that it's a wide open ocean, and obviously we couldn't shoot in an open ocean because of safety, and there's just a lot of problems when you shoot in nature and you don't have a lot of control over weather and swells or anything like that. And so we shot in a very controlled environment, but the visual effects these days are just so powerful and so easy in terms of budget too. I don't think it costs much to make that happen.
And speaking of doubling, what about doubling for Vietnam as far as the physical production? Was it hard for you or a lot easier than you think because of now with these days with a good production designer and just a good visual sense?
Mhm.
It's easier to double one city A for city B.
Surprisingly, it was for me because the art department production designer Maxwell, he built that boat from scratch. I mean, he's never even been to Vietnam. I think he's only been into Southeast Asia, but he built that bamboo boat, and it was awesome. It was amazing, and he built that villa, and we obviously used some real footages from Vietnam so that we can put it in the editing. But the story didn't really take place entirely in Vietnam, right? Because pretty much after about 15 minutes or so, they're kind of out there in the ocean, and so we were able to get enough just to show that they came to Vietnam in this kind of Instagram like vacation, and what everybody sees is the thing to do, and that was enough for me in my opinion, because I wasn't gonna go place them in the middle of the city or anything like that, and that wasn't the interest of the film.
Okay, when you're writing this movie, okay, so I guess on a superficial level, everyone's going to say very fun shark film, but when you're writing it, you're actually looking at it from the point of view of a human being trying to overcome their trauma and their ongoing trauma. Can you just talk about how that theme, why that theme, you were passionate about that theme as far as creating the story?
Yeah, I wanted to do a story that had the the quietness of nature and the kind of like the calmness, but then also the violence of it, and that it just goes on uh, very naturally without you even being aware of it. And that's a metaphor for what the couple's going through, is this underbelly and this undertone of unsaid pain and grief that sometimes you even shout it out, or even have a heated conversation. That it's nothing. There's not really anything to do or gain from that. And so that's kind of like the metaphor of nature in this film too. Is that it's even though they're lost, they're fearful of everything. It's very beautiful and quiet, and that's why you see every now and then a few shots of just beauty, and the calmness of the ocean, and the breeze, and they are in a beautiful place. There's sandbars and there's palm trees, and but she trips on coral, and she gets attacked by a shark immediately. And so those things are always in contrast in this film that I like to build.
A lot of filmmakers have different favorite elements of filmmaking. Some filmmakers just like it right. I remember talking to a filmmaker and he said that he just loved writing the script. And then after every
Mhm.
step along the way, even though it's a finished product and it should be a victory, every single step is a compromise. Another filmmaker said, "Well, I like to actually be on the set with people and just collaborate and
Mhm.
just the human experience." And then another one says editing because you're putting everything together. Just
Mhm.
wondering for you, is there a favorite aspect to what you do?
I like the prep work. I think that that's really when the movie is made or getting made. Is in the prep work, because in prep you watching the movie in your head multiple times, and you're able to make decisions that are critical, obviously, but then also very rewarding, because you get this excitement of, oh, I can't wait to do this, I can't wait to do that, and that's all in the prep. And that's part of working with the actors in prep too, because you're really sitting down with them in a calm setting, and sometimes it's just us in a lobby or something like that, and we're just talk, and it gets them excited about the shoot day. um, to me, shooting days is really a mechanical thing. It's just automatic. It's just because you're so stressed within a 10-hour period. You just have to be automatic about it. You can't really, you can't even have a time to have coffee. I mean, obviously you can drink a lot of coffee, but it's not real coffee time, right? It's it's like you got to get the shot, and it's hurry, 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 and what are the decisions, and so prep time to me is always like the movie really, and that's when you know you're going to make a mistake, and then you can correct it. You know what outfit they should be wearing, and you know that outfit is terrible on camera. It's because it looks cheap, suddenly, but in real life it looks great, and but this somehow this 200,000, $500,000 camera, it looks terrible. So, all of those unforeseen things come up in prep, and but that's why this business is so fun, because it's never the same. It's never the exact thing that you can say that or anticipate.
After this movie, I'm looking forward to going back to some of your other films and actually watching them and getting my own take on your movies. And you seem to have a very cerebral approach to your craft. And wondering, for people who watch your work, is there a through line that puts your films together, or is that being just too over analytical regarding your work? You're saying each experience is different. Is each movie just different, and there's no way just to really lump the themes together in one big essay, I guess?
I would say that the films that, having said that there's films that's prior to me, I tend to gravitate to be precious about the character and the message and the kind of like journey of what that character is going to show you, and you're going to experience with that person. And I just heard this from Elmer Leonard, who's a great writer and influences so many filmmakers, right? And he says he doesn't care about story; he just cares about the character, and he doesn't plan out anything. He just starts talking with the characters, meaning dialogue, and because he's great with dialogue, and he just keeps writing it until a story comes up, that kind of thing. And so it's kind of like that, I everything dictates that for me. Even the shots, even the tone and the timing of the shot, the editing, it really depends on the character. And for this film, it's a scene that Alicia needs to stay there in bed and absorb everything that we've experienced with her from the last shot. A director's decision is, okay, how long are you going to stay on that shot? And some directors would be like, oh, just cut it really quick, or a producer would say that. But, as a director, as a storyteller, you got to make that very important decision. It's either you stay long on that shot so that people are feeling it with her, or you succumb to a lot of people's fears about, what the audience is going to feel. They're going to be, why is this shot so long and all that, and just cut it quick. But I've been successful in arguing a lot with either an audience or a producer and through the needs of the character.
Do you feel like sometimes that's an uphill battle? Because even as an editor myself and on audio, I'm so OCD about even just a half-second space I want to cut. And I also talk to other filmmakers, and they just say, it's a 2-hour film, but I could cut it down if I wanted to 80 minutes. I mean, that's not part of your aesthetic, but is it just an uphill battle for you? Because I think that's really cool, because these composed shots, that letting a story breathe, is so important in the success of a film.
It comes to the Hitchcock's school of thinking, is that it's style is really no style, right? Meaning it's if you watch Hitchcock's movies, he doesn't really edit for style. He edits, or he constructs his film because of the character and what's going on, and the craft of the build up and the scare. And so, I heard this discussion with the Coen brothers too, is that really anybody can direct a movie, right? And it's not a really difficult skill. It's, anybody can put together a film or a story, or, you see it all over in YouTube, but a director decides whether that one camera move stays there for 5 minutes and just hears 3 people talking. Now, not many people can decide that, right? And you see in Jaws, actually, Jaws is a perfect example of what a director should do, is that he'll stay on that one shot of just 3 men talking on a boat, and they're talking about the whole plot and everything, but there's no cuts. It's just 3 men standing on a boat and just talking about whether they're going to be what's their next move in this little small town. And that's what a director does. He makes that very critical decision.
Okay, my final question to you is from my podcast listeners, I usually ask filmmakers and actors to name one of their all-time favorite movies and what is it about this specific film that still resonates with you today?
Oh, that's a tough one because I have so many. It's I could tell you I grew up with the great movies, obviously, in the the action movies of the 80s and the 90s, and I but I didn't really want to become a filmmaker until I saw films from the great 70s, those art houses films, and then the European films. And so I would say when films like Clute came out, Pacula's film and All the President's Men, that really intense movies that had to do with these clever, filmmaking style. And then I've watched a lot of Bergman when I was going in film school, and that really made me the filmmaker that really wanted to tell story in a character-driven way. And then there's films like I can watch Aliens for every weekend if I can. I remember the first movie I've ever seen in a theater was Aliens. With my parents took me to this drive-in theater that had Aliens in there, and I never forgot it. So those are the film movies that really resounds for me in these days.
You quickly mentioned aliens, and do you get wistful for the days when art and commerce could really have a successful marriage? With people like Cameron at the helm. Do you miss those days? Because it's either really
I
visionary.
do, yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Why isn't that commonplace now? That marriage. It's either really interesting visionary filmmakers with a restricted budget as opposed to more commercially driven films with, I guess, compromises with the studio. Is it just part and parcel of the evolution of the movie business, or I don't know.
I think and I think the only person that really resonates this is Tarantino in the contemporary times, because I think movies back then has a sense of rationale. Like, it takes longer to do something, right? It's analog. They shot on film, and James Cameron would literally he was an art director, and he would literally do these miniatures himself, and he knows all of that world. And so it took a lot of meticulous decision making, careful thought into those films, and it wasn't an easy decision. You were um, either burning money, and when you were rolling the camera, you were literally burning money, right? But I think these days everything's so much easier and quicker. You can edit, you can erase, you can, they call it removing. But I think here and especially things are just thrown at us in rapid speed, with the screens, and everybody's really watching movies on a phone. That I think that it's just more of like a speed rail now, just getting the content and the shooting, just really quick. Not to say that there's not great, careful filmmaking being done, like back in the old days, but yeah, it's just a different time and different thinking towards filmmaking.
Okay, thank you so much for your time, and I really appreciate it.
Well, thank you for your questions.
And one more thing, go Bruins.
Oh yes, go Bruins.
All right, thank
And
you.
you look very young for a class of '93. Actually, you look
Oh,
like my age. You can't be the class of '93.
thank you. And Camelia, can you call the doctor? He needs eyeglasses. So, thank you guys. Have a
I don't
great
believe it. Okay.
have a
All
great
right.
rest of the weekend. Take care.
Okay.